Thế thì nó gọi
Well, believe it or not, there were some good things in those good old days. One of the best of the good memories was this, something many of you have never seen, a circus parade. Now know that the big top was being raised, and the everyday humdrum world would soon be transformed into one filled with exotic animals. I had the good fortune to start my show business career in the circus. It's one of the 5 marvelous Ashtons. Marvelous was the parades for some of us care to remember. So it was natural for the Joseph Slip, which had begun a series of community-wide celebrations of holidays, to decide to recreate this wonderful bit of Americana for Milwaukee's celebration of the 4th of July. These are the streets of Milwaukee on the morning of July 4th. In a matter of hours, they will be the site of the biggest circus parade held anywhere, anytime. But it takes a lot of work to bring a memory back to larger than life. And the Schlitz people joined hands with a team of experts at the Circus World Museum in nearby Baraboo. Wisconsin is known as the mother of circuses, having been the birthplace of more than 90 of them, including the biggest. Here at the museum, displays, models, pictures, and exhibits take the visitor back through the history of the circus. There's a handsome devil. They say I was the Rock Hudson of my day. Boy, those were the good old days. Director of the Circus World Museum, established in 1959, is Charles P. Fox, known to everyone as Chappie. Chappie and his chief craftsman, Ernest Zimmerly, will hold hundreds of meetings like this during the 6-month job of restoring over 24 circus wagons to their original beauty. Minute details are checked against photographs of the wagons taken when the wagons were in their prime. Some of the wagons are so old that even photographs of them are rare collector's items. While Chappie and Ernie confer on work for the wagons, well into the restoration process, craftsmen begin the process for other wagons like this. The Beauty Tableau wagon, built over 70 years ago. First job is to get all the old paint off. When you do, you come to understand the beauty of the carvings. Those lovely ladies will adorn this wagon as soon as they get their turn in the beauty parlor. Does she or doesn't she? Only the man with the blowtorch knows for sure. 9 out of 10 Hollywood stars use this as their beauty secret. When the paint is removed, every detail on each wagon is sanded down, touched up, and repaired if necessary. This is the skyboard that runs along the top of the John Bull wagon in the background. When this lady came down with a rare shin disease, Ernie made her a new one. He's known as the Ben Casey of Baraboo. Look at some of the detail work on this wagon, built in 1903. Safety hasn't been overlooked. Brand new brakes have been installed. While Ernie primes the reconstructed Great Britain wagon for its final coats of paint, work goes on in other parts of town. Carl Robinson, who was making tent poles for Ringling Brothers about the time the John Bull wagon was originally being built, fashions a new tongue for a wagon. In Wilbur Deppy's machine shop, his Air Calliope, an exact model of a 1901 Ringling Brothers Calliope, begins to put on a bright new coat. You'll notice I called it Calliope. Don't let me get any of you small fry in trouble with your teachers, but in the world of the circus, Calliope is pronounced Calliope, not Calliope. Back in the museum workshop, Carl Bergner puts the finishing touches on a cage wagon's wheel. I wish my barber's hands were as steady as Cal's. As the pressure of time mounts, the tempo of the work increases. Cal's wife, Maida, comes in to lend an experienced hand. Cal and his wife run a sign painting business in Baraboo. If you want a sign painted, see Cal. You might tell him that Joe E. sent you. And so the restoration job is completed. Wagons from generous donors join other wagons found rotting in fields and old farm buildings and presenting their bright original faces to the world. Museum director Chappie Fox says that Schlitz has made an enormous contribution to Americana by paying for the restoration of these wagons. Not only have they enabled the museum to get 10 years' worth of work done in just 6 months, but that work could be done now while members of this vanishing group of artists and craftsmen are still available. The wagons are loaded on flatbeds for the 125-mile trip to Milwaukee. While the winch supplies plenty of strength, a lot of human muscle is needed to guide the wagons up on the trailers. One false move and they'll all be standing knee-deep in 6 tons of circus wagon. But the fine Irish hand of Transportation Supervisor Eddie O'Brien and his expert team get the job done without any mishaps. "5 a.m. and the final stages of Operation 4th of July begin. The drivers get a final briefing. Officers of the Wisconsin State Highway Patrol and Sauk County Sheriff's Office have been assigned to escort the convoys down to Milwaukee. And we're on our way. From out of the morning mist and of a half-century ago come ghosts. Friendly ghosts that mean warm and wonderful memories. Ghosts that become more and more real as the sun moves higher in the Wisconsin sky. They become so real that soon it's time for some chow. Surprising the you-know-what out of some sleepy-eyed customers inside. The journey continues. Circus Wagon 54, where are you? At the city limits, the Milwaukee police pick up the convoy and escort it through the downtown district to the marshalling area. 5 days, convoys bring groups of the wagons to this area, where they are unloaded to the delight of crowds of spectators. Hundreds of magnificent horses from all over the United States and Canada begin to arrive at their new home. As do the next generation of famous American artists. The teams of horses are hitched to their respective wagons for trial runs. Everything seems to be working out just fine. And that's all to the good because the months of time for preparation and planning have run out. It's the 4th of July, a day in old Milwaukee. Children participate in the traditional by parts. There are athletic events and competitions for decorating coaster wagons, doll carriages, whoops, and bicycles. Over at the brewery, Schlitz throws a huge old-fashioned picnic for 1,500 guests from all over the country. Forget the calories. It's a holiday. The host of A Day in Old Milwaukee, Schlitz President Robert Herlihy and his gracious missus. Parade time is nearing and some of the performers take their positions. Oh, isn't that a pretty pussycat? Behind bars, that is. Elephants, all present and accounted for, sir. Hi there. A 500,000 people line the 3.5-mile route which twists and turns through downtown. The hands of time turn back as we're on our way to a day in old Milwaukee. Leading off is a cavalcade of antique automobiles. Of course, I'm much too young to remember any of them. That's the mayor of Milwaukee, the Honorable Henry Meyer, in a 1902 Rambler. I don't remember that car. It's old, way before my time. But I got the name here in my script. Uh-oh, trouble. Well, why don't they get a horse? Good. Help will be on its way. The senior senator from Wisconsin, William Proxmire, in a, well, let me see what it says here, a 1929 Packard. Isn't that a beauty? It's a, 1 minute, just a minute now, Marmon Wasp. America's first station wagon, a 1915 Ford. I remember when we had one. I think I'll stick to the script if you don't mind. This is it. Here we go. The start of the biggest circus parade ever. Milwaukee becomes the 4th of July capital of America. Mr. and Mrs. Herlihy accompany the parade marshal, John M. Kelly, founder of the Circus World Museum. Trumpeters and flag bearers precede the #1 bandwagon, the Lion and Mirror bandwagon, pulled by 8 Bay Clydesdales. It was built in 1880. Aboard is the Sauk County Circus Band. It is 23 feet long, 10 feet high, and weighs empty 5 tons. Belgians pull this cage wagon, built in 1884 and donated to the museum by Walt Disney Productions. Everyone be quiet, you wake the tigers. Let sleeping tigers lie. The Asia Tableau wagon, drawn by 4 gray Percherons. The wagon was built in 1903, and its carvings represent the various countries and it does not recognize red china. A camel patrol from the Zor Shrine in Madison, Wisconsin, followed by riders on purebred Arabian horses. Relatively simple but nonetheless beautiful is this wagon, the Dragon and Mirror Tableau. 6 matched Belgians draw this 1915 wagon. A wonderful display of horsemanship. Horsewomanship? Well, horseback riding. Mrs. George Borg. This Air Calliope is drawn by 6 midget. Another Walt Disney donation is this handsome cage wagon. It's just a baby as wagons go, having been built in the 1920s. 6 Clydesdales make up the team, and the tigers are awake. This is something like Oscar night. The Seashell Tableau wagon, donated by, may I have the envelope, please? Walt Disney Productions. 8 Belgians draw the Swan bandwagon. Built in 1907 and donated to the museum by, I'm not going to tell you. You just guess. 23 feet long, 10 feet high, and it weighs 5 tons. The Girl and Lion Tableau, built in 1915 as a ticket wagon. It is pulled by 6 Clydesdales. It's 17 feet high, 11 feet long, and is a hefty 4 tons. Lloyd the Llama, a favorite performer up at the Circus World Museum. The France bandwagon, pulled by 6 gray Percherons. This, the #1 bandwagon, and the Asia wagon were all donated by Carson Perry Scott and Company of Chicago. You know what? With this being the first circus parade and so, people didn't know what to wear. 2 definite fashion trends were set. One was fur coats for men, and the other, hats. our baby Calliope, 6-pony power engine. The Cinderella float, like the Old Woman in the Shoe, which follows it, was built in 1880. After long careers both in Europe and America, they were abandoned on a farm in Missouri. Dedicated circus lovers found them and saw to it that they made their way to the museum, called the Humane Society. Why is he making that tiny creature pull that big, heavy wagon? The Mother Goose tableau carries 2 Mouseketeers and their leader. Despite the passengers, this wagon was not donated by... Oh, here comes the Columbia bandwagon, built in 1897. 6 black Percherons make up the team. This is the first circus wagon brought to the museum from outside the state of Wisconsin. Built in 1903, this originally was a steam Calliope wagon. Now it carries a Unifon, which is a sort of electrically operated xylophone. Our old girlfriends on the beauty tableau wagon are joined by some lovely live ones. Another Disney donation. The wagon, not the girls. The girls are from Schlitz, he said with gusto. Some of the Midwest's most important civic, industrial, and professional leaders don circus garb for a ride on the Mirror Tableau wagon, built in 1902. 8 Clydesdales pull the 6-ton Pawnee Bill bandwagon, built in 1903. It was donated to the museum by the family of the famous carnival owner, Bill Hames, as was the John Bull wagon. If you think this is good, you should see him do the twist. Did anyone see which way the masked man on the white horse went? Now, this is the kind of a transportation I remember. John Bull, resplendent against the Union Jack, thrills the crowds. Over 60 years old and still a showstopper. A 1920 wagon pulled by 4 Belgians without the Tigers. It weighs 1.5 tons and is 15 feet long and 11 feet high. These elephants, like the wild animals in the parade, come from Ring. Performing in Milwaukee. Notice he's kneeling in the direction of Mr. Ed. The traditional closer for a circus parade, the big steam Calliope. Built in 1903, this wagon, known as the America wagon, performs regularly up at the museum at Baraboo. The practical closer for a circus parade are these gentlemen. But there's still more to come. Mr. Forrest Tucker, a music man who does know the territory, leads off a display of musicianship and precision marching and drilling as bands and drum and bugle corps, color guards, and military units keep the eye filled with color and the ear filled with music. then home for perhaps a picnic dinner, and down to the lakefront for a gigantic display to end this day. A truly special day, our country's birthday. As the last of the rocket's red glare fades into the night sky, this city looks forward to next year, when it celebrates a day in old Milwaukee and becomes again America's 4th of July capital.
This is a circus wagon. Years ago, magnificent wagons like this rolled through the streets with blaring tunes from the calliope so loud that it drowned out the clop of the horses' hooves. And the eager crowds that rushed out to the streets knew the circus was coming to town. But times changed. The parades were squeezed off the roads and almost out of existence. Then came a man named Chappie Fox, who refused to let the old circus parades be forgotten. And because of Chappie, who directs the Circus World Museum in Baraboo, Wisconsin, a mammoth circus parade rumbles down the streets of Milwaukee every year on the 4th of July. But the Circus World Museum is where it begins, in Ringling's old elephant barn. Faded ghosts of circus wagons are brought here for a magical transformation. This worn-out, run-down specimen will emerge looking splendid, and every part will be in sound working order for the parade. Craftsmen start from scratch, stripping away layer after layer of chipped and ugly paint. The sad condition of this wagon is the result of years of neglect and indifference. Historic accuracy and not artistic fancy is the goal here. To help the painters, the museum searches for old illustrations and descriptions of the original paint job. The completed job is dazzling, right down to the wheels, and Wagon 84 is ready to roll. Circuses would splurge thousands on a single wagon. After all, it was the parade that drummed up business for the big top. Thus, as Chappie Fox says, the parades were as thrilling as the show itself.
One of the most exciting aspects of the circus years ago was its daily street parade. We feel that as a museum, we are doing our job in presenting circus history. We are bringing back to life this long forgotten, almost forgotten form of entertainment. And in this day and age of flights to the moon, walking in space, we were terribly pleased with the tremendous turnout of people to see our circus parade, as well as our circus train, which carried all of our wagons and tons of paraphernalia to Milwaukee so that we could do this job. We are most deeply indebted to the Joseph Schlitz Brewing Company of Milwaukee and its civic-minded president, Bob Eline, for giving the Circus Museum a chance to recreate this parade. And this is what we present on the streets of Milwaukee every 4th of July as part of Old Milwaukee Days.
Hi, welcome to Old Milwaukee Days.
The Old Milwaukee Days celebration actually begins in Baraboo, when the wagons are loaded onto a special train called the Circus Parade Limited. This site is virtually unknown nowadays, except in Baraboo. And the day before departure, people come from everywhere to watch the final preparations. Every detail is authentic, even down to the battered felt hats worn by roustabouts. The hat was once the mark of every circus worker. It takes almost an entire day's work in the hot sun to load the 50 wagons, but by 4 o'clock, they're all aboard and ready to go. The run from Baraboo to Milwaukee is 120 miles, and taken at a leisurely 30 miles an hour, it's a 5-hour trip. 500,000 train buffs and circus fans will line the route. At dawn, the train puffs out of Baraboo, pulled by engine number 4960, a Burlington steam locomotive built in 1923. All 14 flat cars are genuine pieces of circus equipment. Along with the flat cars and their gaily painted cargo, there are 3 old passenger coaches full of important dignitaries, and a stock car carrying a llama and 8 horses. As the train jogs through the peaceful Wisconsin countryside, a Wurlitzer band organ and a raucous steam calliope ring out with brassy music. It's early afternoon when the Circus Parade Limited pulls into the Milwaukee lakefront, and there's a grinning throng of people on hand to welcome it. Thanks to all those rehearsals back in Baraboo, unloading proceeds smoothly. This spectacular Great Britain wagon was built in 1903 for Ringling Brothers. It and 3 other impressive wagons were commissioned in the hopes of snatching some glory from Barnum and Bailey, which was then returning from a European triumph. This exceptionally beautiful old wagon will lead the Milwaukee Parade. It's a marvelous creation of gilded lions and curiously shaped mirrors. The life-size Cinderella float is one of 7 pony-drawn floats built for Barnum and London. Only 3, all in the parade, still survive. Circus City is exactly what the lakefront area becomes for several hectic, happy days before the parade. The smells, sights, and sounds of the good old days of the circus are all here. Spirited music from the calliope and band organ fills the air, along with squeals of excited children getting their first taste of cotton candy, or watching terrifying wild animal acts. You can sniff the acrid scent of elephants and horses, and pet a friendly llama. 14 canvas tents help bring back a time when the circus really was held in the big top. Graceful aerial acts are another highlight of Circus City. The aerial artists, called flyers, rival the astronauts in sheer courage and daring. Over 400 horses from all over the country are used in the parade. Horses and wagons get a chance to try each other out beforehand. This 12-horse team of Belgians is having its first trial run with the 5-ton Swan bandwagon. 12 ponies hitched 4 abreast practice with the Cinderella wagon. Before the parade, the Joseph Schlitz Brewing Company hosts thousands of guests in an enormous street picnic at the brewery. Jolly the Clown is on hand to entertain the younger guests. A. Eline, Jr., president of Schlitz, and his gracious wife. Governor Warren P. Knowles of Wisconsin and his charming wife. But it's getting late. It's almost time for the parade. And here it is. The first blast of the bugle, the first beat of the drum. Suddenly all those months of planning and piles of paperwork take shape. And it becomes a parade. And not just a parade, but one of the grandest and most glittering circus parades that ever rolled through any town in the world. 600,000 people are here to watch. 2,700 musicians in 25 bands will play their instruments. Down the street will rumble $1.5 million worth of magnificent circus wagons. And the marches, well, they come from as far away as California, Arizona, Washington, D.C., and Ontario, Canada.
Hey!
And here's a crazy cavalcade of antique cars. Included in this rare roundup of horseless wonders are a 1905 Maxwell and a 1907 Locomobile. Waving enthusiastically to the crowd from a 1931 Cadillac is Mayor Henry Meyer of Milwaukee. The real start of the circus parade is signaled by the Schlitz wagon. From here on out, everything coming down Wisconsin Avenue is the authentic stuff that the old-time parades were made of. And here's wagon number 1, the elegant Lion and Mirror bandwagon. The musicians are all veterans of real circus bands who have retired to the Baraboo area. They call themselves the Sauk County Circus Band and are playing circus tunes that were written back in the 19th century. In the hackney-drawn carriage are Wisconsin Governor Warren P. Knowles and Mrs. Knowles. Brazilian Carnival is the theme of this exotic and brilliantly costumed group, the Polish-American String Band from Philadelphia. A stunningly decorated silver and green cage wagon was donated to the museum by Walt Disney. Here again is the graceful, beautifully carved Swan bandwagon. Cage wagon number 88 has superb golden figures on each corner. The handsome wagon has appeared in several films, including Toby Tyler, Chad Hanna, and Jumbo. This is the gorgeous Asia tableau, an elaborately decorated wagon made in 1903 for Barnum and Bailey. It's one of a series named for continents. For our freshly renovated wagon, it's the first parade in many a year. The beautiful red and gold mirror tableau. It was built in 1903 for the Goldmar Brothers' debut as a railroad circus. The marvelous silver and red music wagon contains a powerful Wurlitzer band organ, still lusty after almost 60 years of service. The old woman in the shoe float Another of the intriguing life-size floats built for Barnum and Bailey some 80 years ago. Some of her poor little children are clinging to the sides of her shoe. 6 midget mules draw this charming music wagon belonging to Juanita Beck and her husband Brownie. The Becks found the wagon in a dilapidated condition and supervised its restoration. That's Juanita at the keyboard. Powerful Belgian horses hitched 4 abreast pull the massive fairy tale tableau. The wagon at one time was owned by Hagen Beck Wallace Circus. Each side illustrates a different fairy tale. This colorful panorama depicts a scene from that old favorite, Peter, Peter, Pumpkin Eater. The members of this jaunty troupe are dressed in the sort of outfits our sailors wore about 1812. The majestic France bandwagon. Wooden goddesses grace the 4 corners of the beauty tableau and decorate the center panels as well. Space has been reserved on top for a tableau of living beauties from Schlitz. The dignified Great Britain bandwagon. This splendidly ornate 4-ton wagon used to be nicknamed the John Bull. And behind it come the Redcoats, the 2nd Signals Regimental Trumpet Band from Toronto, Canada. Their high hats are made of beaver, and those bright jackets are the traditional British scarlet. This gigantic 17-foot-long cage wagon is divided into 3 separate compartments and has a runway down the right-hand side. One occupant of the cage, an alert lioness, stares hungrily out at the crowds. This wagon was specially designed to handle working cat acts. On the roof of this next wagon is a popular circus instrument called a uniphone. A snarling tiger on the wagon side is an amazing bit of circus art. start of the Wild West section is this magnificently decked out Indian chief riding a superb Appaloosa pony. Menominee Indians in full regalia dance to the beat of the tom-tom aboard this stringer wagon. Wherever you have Indians, you're sure to find cowboys, too. This strange-looking horse is really an American bison from South Dakota. His name is Pat. According to his owner and trainer, Pat is the only saddle-broken bison in the world. He weighs an impressive 1,300 pounds and will bow, walk on his knees, shake hands, and impersonate a horse. The huge hippo wagon is cleverly designed with a bay in each side, so the enormous beast can turn around. This prodigious hippo rides in his own private swimming pool. And on top of this tableau, guarded by two fearless young ladies, rides a real live cheetah. This gorgeously ornate tableau is decorated with carvings of fantastic sea serpents. On its roof is another unicorn, which produces delightfully tinkly music. Baraboo gossip has it that this baby hippo insisted on marching in the parade because he has a crush on one of the elephants. This splendid fife and drum corps from Waterbury, Connecticut, dates back to pre-revolutionary days. The Mattatuck Drum Band was formed in 1767. Many of those old-fashioned instruments were made 150 years ago. Betsy Ross is stitching the stars on the first American flag, the banner that would one day become the original 4th of July, Old Glory. And now, with the approach of a mighty steam calliope, this stupendous spectacle draws to a close. But because of men who care, and a civic-minded corporation that intensely believes in this exuberant creation of the American spirit, the streets will ring again next year with the intoxicating clamor of and the thunder of brass and drum. And the most glorious circus parade in history will triumphantly roll again.